Hey guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Christina. Today we are setting up the second full week in April with a Dutch door. Before I get into that, let's go over the supplies I'll be using. First, you'll need a dotted notebook. Now the one I'm using is the Archer and Olive A5 lime green dot grid notebook. You'll also need a yellow, green, and brown marker for coloring in the lemons because that's what the theme is for April. The ones I'm using is the Archer and Olive acrylograph markers. I also use a Pigma micron pen in thickness 03, a Tombow dual brush pen in N15, a Tombow Fudaneschi brush pen, a Uniball Signo pen in white, letter stamps. The ones I'm using is from Paper Source, so I will leave a link for that down below. In addition to that, you will also need a black ink pad and an X-Acto blade. I'm starting with a mini calendar in the top left-hand corner. This is something I occasionally add to my weekly setup, but as of recently, I love it. It's so helpful. That means I don't have to flip to the front of the layout to view the month. So I try to incorporate that in every weekly setup. I totally forgot to mention this when I listed the supplies. But if you want to know how I get those perfectly rounded corners, I purchased this stencil at Michael's. Now, of course, you don't need this stencil to draw rounded corners. You can either freehand it or just find something in your stationery cart that has a round corner. All last year, I didn't have a stencil. I was actually using a cardstock that I received, I think it was from Passion Planner, and it was just like this cardstock that just happened to have rounded corners, but it was like a monthly, or it was a yearly overview. It came with the Passion Planner Daily. I used that cardstock until I couldn't use it anymore. I have a weekly to-do list on the left-hand side, and then the daily tasks section, I'm going to be listing that in the middle of the setup. Then I'm using a third of the page for fun. I have a lemon at the top and a fun quote for the week. And this is exactly what I meant when I was raving about how much space you get with a Dutch door. I usually wouldn't have room for a quote, so I get to be a little bit more creative in my weekly setup. Now, the Dutch door trend in bullet journaling is when some of the pages have been cut down horizontally, giving the illusion of a Dutch door. I tried this for the first time last month for my Taylor Swift inspired Plan With Me setup, but instead of a traditional Dutch door, I created a vertical one. That's what I'm going to be doing today because I love how much more space you get, especially when I know I'm going to have a lot going on that week. I could use the extra space. This setup is perfect for functional planning, but you know, it's like I also want my spread to look good. Anytime you do a Dutch door for a weekly format, you're always going to have so much more writing space. I'm not sure if you noticed, but when I mentioned the supplies I'll be using for this setup, I didn't say a pair of scissors, and there's a reason for that. When you're cutting out your Dutch door, an X-Acto blade or knife is exactly what you want. Last month when I tried it for the first time, I used a pair of scissors, and unfortunately it curled the paper. It doesn't lay flat. I found my X-Acto blade at the bottom of my stationery cart and I used it. The edges are so much cleaner and more precise, and I just don't think I could have gotten the round edge of the lemon with a pair of scissors, or at least with the scissors I own. Also, you don't have to press so hard with the X-Acto blade because it's very sharp. You can potentially cut through to the next page. I kind of did that with this setup, but luckily it didn't completely cut through. Earlier, I mentioned the mini calendar. I placed it at the top left-hand corner for a reason, and that's because when I'm flipping the Dutch door, I can still see the monthly overview. And that also goes for the weekly to-do list. That's just something I'll be looking at all week, so it's convenient to place it where I can just see the entire thing. I have a section for next week's to-do list and a grocery list on the right-hand side of the setup. Those areas take up more space, but I just kind of assumed I'll have a lot to write. I like to plan out my week the week before, and of course, things will come up last minute, but when I plan the week before, I'm just so much more organized and I tend to get things done. That's probably because I've mentally prepared myself for how next week is going to be. But yeah, that's another reason I like the Dutch door format, because I usually wouldn't have a space for next week's to-do list. I mentioned this in my April Plan With Me bullet journal setup, but my favorite part in this month's design is taking my Micron pen and outlining the lemons. It isn't perfect, and that's precisely why I like it so much. It adds a little something extra to the spread. Here is my Dutch door weekly setup. I love this setup, which is exactly why I wanted to shoot a weekly Plan With Me. I love how much color there is, so please tag me if you guys recreate it in any way. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys next week with another video plus a giveaway, so click that notification bell. Bye!